Well, I mean, we could talk to Amber all day. We need to get into Insecure, the second episode of the season. And so again, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. If you haven't watched it, step your pussy up because you're missing out. Thank you. So if you want to not hear spoilers, look in the timestamp. It's always in the verbiage of the episode. So look now because we're about to get into it. So what did you guys think of the second episode?
And we'll let you go first.
And was it better than the first episode?
You don't want me to go first.
Yes, we do. Oh. Come on now.
I want to say this because, I'm a guest. So I want to say that I have been a fan of Issa Rae's since Awkward Black Girl, like a decade ago.
Took my stapler? That scene. Yes. Look, let me tell you, I got a stapler at my desk still, and I see this and I think about it every single time.
Yes. And
that's
like
a real
Patty
ass
with
moment.
The code always. Like I go back and watch, like when I'm having a rough day, I'm like, let me just remember where Issa started. So I really do love everything that she has put out. Mm-hmm. But since we're cousins, I really did not like the second episode. Like starting a second episode with a 1 year time jump was now could we have done that on episode 1? Or also, you have to remember your audience. So it's like, for us, you've been away for like 2 years. So we don't want to see a 1 year jump. We want to see Molly crying, or we want to see the text message that sent Molly to the barbershop.
Honey.
Because I remember the text message that sent me to the barbershop. I was like, I want to see this breakdown. I want to see that like Napoli Ever After moment where she was like, you know what? No. Or the Bernadette on Waiting to Exhale. Where's the breakdown?
Right.
So,
get your shit. Get your shit and get out.
And get out. Yes. So cigarette flick and everything.
Everything.
We wanted to see that. So in my opinion. So I was like, why are you like, this is the last season. How dare you go 1 year in the future? What does that mean? Now Lawrence has a 1 year old? Like, where does that put us for the whole Insecure universe? So I was a little peeved about that. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. I literally said in last week's episode, I was like, I'm so glad that they didn't do a time jump.
I legit
said that I was so happy they didn't do it. And then bam, 1 year later, I said, God damn.
Right.
I was like, and honestly, I could not receive anything outside of it feeling rushed. I that was it. Like, I was like, now I just feel like they wanted to be done. And so to make sure that they can close it out on a better note, they're going to rush the beginning so they can do a better ending. And I was like, but I don't want that. I want none of that. Like, that's not how it's supposed to be done.
The only person that grew during that year was Molly. Issa was kind of still in the same place.
Place.
What was the reason?
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to me. I will say that I did love seeing them as friends, like being back together. I was like, oh, I love that. And it was funny because I'm on like an Insecure Facebook group. I don't know if y'all in that same Insecure, they be messy. And I'm like, damn, I can't be happy about nothing.
Nothing.
I'm like, I hate everything.
That's why I had to mute that group, because I was like, y'all be spoiling my experience with it.
Right.
So.
Literally.
Don't join no Facebook. I recently left a new mommy group. They would get on my nerves. Damn, I'm only 16 weeks in utero, and y'all bitches, it'd be like, so disappointed. Found out I was having a boy. It's like, is this for real?
Like, word?
This can't be real life.
Yeah. So it's been interesting. But I will say, I'm with you, Amber. I did not like the second episode. To me, it just felt rushed, and it just felt like an out to kind of set up however they're trying to end the rest of the season. And I was just like, that just wasn't it. Because I want to see all the stuff that led to this episode. And it actually made me, and I feel like maybe that was what they were trying to do, was make us like Molly a little bit more, because I loved seeing Molly's growth in that episode. Like, she was cool.
We like humanizing too, but so we've never seen, I mean, we've seen Molly had some lulls, but it's like, for the most part, she's like always had a banging body, always had a great job. It's like, that's not relatable. Like, we want to see the throat, and we all fresh. We still 10 toes down in this pandemic. I was like, great. So Molly still has a hot body. She looks great with a shaved head. She's doing great at work.
Right. with that
So
dope
I'm
ass
the problem.
with that dope ass leather outfit. I was like, where can I get that?
Let me tell you. First of all, I was like, I literally thought I was like, could I wear that?
Literally, I was like, I want it. I want it.
It seems a little chilly. I was like, you better rock it, girl.
Dewan, what you was thinking?
I feel like I have to watch each episode of this last season through two lenses, because I feel like this episode I was thrown off by the whole.
I know. I was like, let me get my other glasses. Hold on.
Right.
Okay. What?
But I was thrown off by the time jump. It's not uncommon for a director or even a show writer to do that, and then later in the season go back and do a backfill, right? So we go to the future, then we come back and then show more, and that could be an artistic choice. So I kind of had to suspend a little bit of my disappointment in that, and like what all did we miss, just for that fact. So that's the one lens, just kind of like trying to think of this in context of watching the show, knowing that they're building something for the whole season, and there's an arc that's going to happen. So, and I don't know what that arc is, and I'm not trying to figure it out. I want to give myself over into just losing myself into each and every single episode and just letting it happen the way that it happened. So
you better be
that
grateful.
Was the One Piece.
You better tell us. Be grateful.
Look,
you better.
Okay.
Ain't no time for hateration in this dancery. So that's the one lens. The other lens was really just taking that one episode for what it was. And I enjoyed seeing like Molly's growth in this episode, and kind of like taking ownership and seeing the fruits of her work. And I would have loved to have seen more of that. We got a glimpse of that in the very first episode where she was coaching herself. So for that to happen in this episode, it was like, okay, well, that's cool. I would love to have a more poignant conversation about the showcase, particularly as a creator, a content creator. This, and I'm just gonna say it. This is my opinion. That fashion show was trash, in my opinion. It was trash. The clothes were trash. The production was trash. I mean, talk about it was just it was trash for the simple fact that he made it a point. Let me take one step back, because I need to make sure that this is fully realized and expressed. In this world that they created, that you have this designer who has come from the prison system and has built a groundswell, grassroots, that's what I'm looking for, grassroots following for representing Inglewood or LA or whatever, and that's cool, but in my mind I'm thinking about the business aspect of it, and the capability for Crenshaw, that name to be featured as part of this showcase, which we didn't get to see all of it. We just got to see his piece of it. We didn't get to see all of it, but we were kind of thrown into the pitch meeting with Issa and all that stuff. And to know that this is what I would assume would be an incredible opportunity for him to be so indignant about his craft, right? To buck the system and say, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do anyway. And then when we saw what he did, and then
it's the face for me
with the bucket boys.
I'm just like, it. In my opinion, it would have come off better if the people in the audience would have reacted more. You know what I mean? Like that we're sitting there, and when the guys with the drummers come out, and the guys that were screaming at each other, and screaming at the audience members, and dropping the N-word and da 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 da. If people, like, we saw some black fists up, but we didn't see. When you really love something, you're like, that's the shit, and you get all like this and whatnot.
Hey,
you didn't see any of that,
right.
and the crowd was black except for the one white guy that was representing the financier of this event. So it was the disconnect for me. It was a disconnect. Okay. It didn't make sense. I thought some of the clothes were cute. But it really wasn't about that. I was just upset. I was upset that this guy would, trample on a person who is sticking her neck out to create an opportunity for him.
Yeah, that's the part that got me.
And just shit all over that, under this guise of, I'm an artist and I want you to believe in me. If you're not going to believe me, da 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 da. I would have rather he say, I'm not doing it, than for him to like shit on that and then call her a sellout. Like that's the shit that pisses me off when he called her a sellout, because that's not sellout behavior. That is not. That's called compromise. And sometimes you do have to compromise. Now you can choose not to. You can stand in your morals and say, I'm not going to do this if I can't present my full vision. That's a whole different conversation. But to dog her down, knowing what she's doing for the community, I felt the way about that.
I like that part though of it. Like I agree, the fashion show was trash and the music of it was trash. I was like, but I like because those are real conversations that occur though. Those are real situations that people get in, especially in the Black community, calling each other sellouts and things like that. Where it's just like, nah, Playboy, you don't know the whole full story, like how I went to bat for you and this and that. And so those are real ass conversations. So I liked how they touched on it. But I agree. The fashion show, I was like, okay, Crenshaw, whatever, boo boo.
They sided with Crenshaw, so
right.
You touched on it in the wrong way. And I think the whole episode was meant to serve as like, maybe Issa, you don't always make the best decisions. And that's where they kind of lost us because the first episode with the whole like deciding not to be with Lawrence, and the second episode with this. They're just showing like, well, Issa, maybe you shouldn't trust your instinct. And I was like, is this where we're headed? Because that's not what
good.
This is about. And I agree, Dewan. If you're a creator, you're always going to get notes. Like, I have worked with a very small percent of brands, and the video that got published was like the fourth take of it.
Yeah.
So people have to realize that like, you can't be like strong and wrong, but you're not still booking the gig.
That part. That part. The other part that got me too, that like is a very small moment at the end where she was laying in bed with Nathan and she starts to cry. I was like, you would have wrapped your head. You ain't going to bed with them fresh little braids and you laying down on that pillow. Literally, that's what I thought.
Actually, them braids weren't that fresh. If you really look, go back and watch the episode. There was
stop it.
Her hair was bad this whole
I wonder if this was a COVID episode. It makes me
Can't nobody braid her hair and slick that shit down. The amount of money they spent on the soundtrack and their clothes. Come on now.
Yeah, them clothes. But
they had the budget for her hair.
Right.
It's never given me. What
they had her. They had her regularly dressed in Gucci, so I know that they had the budget for her hair.
Maybe they gave her a choice.
You know what?
Outfits.
So it sounds like we all agree that we didn't like this episode as much. I felt the same way. You guys kind of hit on the same notes I had. At least they are still lighting the shit out of Black people. They like the shit out that cast. They look good.
Kirill, but here's the thing. Like, have you ever eaten a piece of cake? And
all the time.
The cake.
Nom nom, bitch. Nom nom.
I know my way around some cakes. Like not cooking them or baking them, but eating them.
Yes.
And you take that initial bite, you're like, this is good. Because you're talking to people. And then you take a second bite and you're like, the cake is dry, but they put tons of buttercream and they paired it with a cocktail and the presentation was great.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the actual cake is not good. And I think Insecure gets away with doing that to us sometimes because it's like the lighting composition is great and the outfits. Look at the wardrobe. Look, we got Kofi in here. He fine, ain't he?
Right,
and then when you peel
all
of that back, you're like, but what was left?
That's
what
interesting.
was left was a Black man calling Issa a sellout, and what was also left was a white voice being valued in this whole thing. So it's like, this cake was good, but when I'm sneaking into the fridge at 3 a.m. and sitting with it now, it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
Like that's
and now my teeth just blew.
See.
I'm just sitting here at 3 a.m. with blue teeth.
Like, dang, this tasted so good at the party when we were
Right.
watching it. We were listening to the
Yeah.
podcast about Insecure. We were at Insecure Fest, and now when I'm zooming out of all of that, we weren't really left with much substance with this episode.
I do feel like what
You're
they
right.
did, because I keep thinking about like, what did we learn about Issa? Like, what are they trying to tell? What story are they trying to tell about Issa? Like every single episode, you go deeper into the Issa story, and I feel like this was a little bit of a play off of what she said following the panel. You know how in the first episode she was just like, I don't know if I really made it. I don't know if I'm making the right decisions. And when I think about the namesake of the show being Insecure, that's it. It's like that like in my mind, this was, even though she's seen successes, it's reflecting back, like what am I seeing in the mirror? It's like it's reflecting back that notion of imposter syndrome, you know? So like
that's real.
You're still seeing her navigate, albeit bigger waters, because she's not doing shit for free. She's not begging people to show up and donate, but now she's getting sponsors and da 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 da. But there's an element that she's lacking, an element of confidence in the way that she's making these moves, that I felt like that's the story that they were trying to tell. She wasn't very confident with the investors, because in my mind, in hindsight, I felt like, well, damn, are they the only investors in town? Like, you couldn't go to a couple of people to finance this gig so that this thing worked off or whatever. And even in her interaction with Crenshaw, it felt like there were things that she wanted to say, and she did kind of like try to stick up for herself or whatever, but at the end of the day, she kind of like bit her own tongue. And I feel like it's re-emphasizing the fact that she's just still figuring out her path.
It just sucks that we're in season 4 of this,
Five.
Ooh. Like if you remember, like episode 1 where she like took the stage and did the whole broken pussy bit.
Yeah.
I literally thought this episode was gonna be like, okay, Crenshaw didn't show. He's stuck in his ways. Issa's about to take that mic and give us some of those bars.
See, now
and
that
maybe
would've been
it'll get
funny.
a standing ovation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when Crenshaw showed up, still did his thing, it was like, told you. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And remember, we're on season 5, a year in.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, damn, you still getting shitted on. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? What hope is there for the rest of us?
Ooh, well, community, let us know what you thought of the episode. Obviously, again, we've been telling you that we're going to critique every episode, so you better catch up. And if you have, there's people DMing and said, "Oh, I haven't watched all the episodes yet from like last season." I'm like, "Bitch, where you been at? It's been like 2 years since the last season."
Like I like to say, it ain't a spoiler, bitch. You late.
Bitch, you late.